All right, welcome everybody to another what's going to be a great live stream here at Swarmstead Bees and Gardening. My guest tonight is Cliff Stevens from Bee Smart Design. You probably recognize him from a lot of the bee convention videos. So I'm doing a bunch of interviews. So I'm just going to bring him in and we're going to shoot the breeze, shoot the breeze about bees. There you go. You got your nice Bee Smart T-shirt on. Let me make us a little bit bigger here.
Okay.
All right, we got Jake coming in the house. So anybody who has questions or has experience with Be Smart equipment, just shoot them in there, and we can. I'm going to take it back to the normal size here, and then periodically here through the stream, Cliff was nice enough to donate some stuff to give away to our viewers, and I've made a few videos so far in my experience, and I really like it. But let's hear a little more about Mr. Stevens there. I think you got into beekeeping around the same time as me. What got you interested in messing with bees?
I've been doing it about 14 years now. And kind of like happenstance is how I got into it. A friend of mine had bought a new house, called me one day and said he thought he had bees. He said, am I interested in bees and taking bees? And I said, I don't know. Standard answer. So I didn't know much about bees. And I went online, found a local beekeeper who told me, come on out. Let me show you what's involved in bees. I went out with my daughter. We spent a whole afternoon with this guy at his house. I thought it was pretty cool and came back, called my friend up and said, it sounds pretty cool. I think I'll do the bee thing. And I know that sounds weird. And he said, unfortunately, the exterminator, who's a beekeeper, came and said it wasn't bees, it was wasps in the tree. But in the meantime, I kind of got hooked. And then I called up the guy I met, this guy, Ernie, and I said, Ernie, my friend didn't have bees, but I'm still interested in doing it. What can we do? And he said, I'll sell you bees. Come on out. I'll tell you what to buy, and I'll get you started. And that's how it started. And I started with one hive. And as soon as I got it, my wife at that time said, you're not going to put cinder blocks in my gardens. She was a Cornell Master Gardener. And if you know much about Cornell Master Gardeners, they're very picky about gardens. They make getting a master beekeeping degree look easy. So I called up one of my suppliers in my main business and I said, I need a stand. He says, well, we don't have anything, but I can cobble something together for you from stuff we make for other people. And he made me a stand or something to put my beehive on. And after a year, I said, boy, I think I can make my own stand. And my main business is not bees. It's sign products for retail stores. And we make sign stands. And my supplier said, we can cobble something together. And we cut it, welded it, made a stand out of plastic. I liked it. I tested it. And I said, okay, I think I'm going to go into business. And told my wife, I'm going to go into the bee business. And she said, don't. And I said, why? And she said, you already have enough stuff. You have too many obligations. Forget it. And about 8 months later of me harping on it, she finally said, do whatever the hell you want. And so I built the tool. We made the first hive stand. And I went to EAS when it was in Rhode Island. And that's how I got started in the business.
Oh, yeah, you brought up the Master Gardening. I know the Penn State Master Gardening. They asked me if I wanted to try that, and that just seemed like a ton of work just to call myself a master gardener. And I said, no, I'm just going to enjoy gardening. I'm not going to go through all that stuff. So for you, it was like right on the first season you started.
Just second season, I was in the process of coming up with the product. But the bees are kind of like a second life for me in insects because when I was in college, I did mosquito research. So back in the late 70s, I was researching with mosquitoes, got out of the mosquitoes, went to business school, started in 2 different jobs, and then got into the bees. So I went from mosquitoes to business to bees.
Now, what was the first item that you made and put into production to sell?
That was the hive stand. The original
Okay,
hive
the
stand that
same.
had a mission style, this rectangular looking one. The first one that was out for about 10 years.
Oh, cool. So yes, you started doing that right away in like 2011, 2012.
Something
Um,
like that.
so I saw you at the what do you call it, the Honeybee Expo this year
Yes.
and last year. What do you think of that? Did you get a lot of good feedback from people that are
This
used to?
year was fantastic. Last year when it was Hive Life, it was the first time we've ever done a big show outside of EAS, and the Better Be Field Day. And so last year was just a learning experience. We had a 20-foot booth. It looked okay. It wasn't great. This year we upped our game. We made it look much more professional. We went much more with branding. Our name very large. Set up some actual hives on stands in the front, and then display tables to show all the different products. Um, which we had a new product this year, which was our trivet, which is the pollen patty holder for small hive beetle protection.
Okay.
But I originally started with the stand. It was a one product deal. I knew nothing about the bee industry other than I didn't want to sell direct. My main business, we sell through dealers. And I
Yeah.
went to the show, and within the first 3 days, I opened up Brushy Mountain, if you remember who they were.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Brushy Mountain, Dadant, Kelly, um, and Better Bee did not take me on at that time. And since then, we've been growing through both large dealers like the Nationals and through regionals and smaller local dealers. And actually, Man Lake took us on in the first round also.
That's cool. Yeah. So one thing I did notice, I don't know if it's really relevant to here, but um, I like the lids a lot, and that's why I originally contacted you because I thought, hey, I really like these lids. I'm gonna have them in a bunch of my videos, but I didn't know about all the other stuff. I just thought he's only made lids. I had no idea. But I did notice that when you search around, you can find just the outer cover. I'm not talking about the inner cover or the base.
Right.
You can find it from anywhere from $27 to like $60 just for one lid. And what like what do you think about that? Is that something you would want to happen or not? Or
And unfortunately, the beekeeping industry is kind of weird, and it's taken on some of the Amazon model of free shipping. So you can go to places like Better Bee and some of the local places, and they add the shipping. So you see the price, you pay the shipping depending on what you're getting or if you're picking up. If you go to different places, some are free shipping on 200, some are free shipping on 100. And guess what? You're paying for the shipping.
yeah, you're paying somehow. Yeah.
Don't think you're getting free shipping. It's not happening. So what can we do? We can't do much about it. We don't have a minimum price that people can sell at, but the dealers that are lasting and living there for a long time, they figured it out. They know what they have to sell for. They know what their margins are, and we've been very steady with the dealers. And I think part of it is customers are loyal to dealers, and sometimes they'll buy from a dealer just because that's where they buy everything. And some people think the free shipping is a great deal. Some people don't. Um, Personally, I think the free shipping you end up paying more in the long run.
Yeah, I realized that from I used to always love using Man Lake because I could easily come up with $100 worth of stuff to order, but I never looked anywhere else until for years. I never even looked until maybe this past year, and I thought, hey, let me just look around. And man, I found some places that even though you had to pay for shipping, the prices on the woodenware and the stuff was just way lower, and it ended up saving me a bunch of money.
I
Just
mean, one of our
paying
largest
for
dealers is
shipping.
Better Be, and they don't charge shipping. But when you buy from them, it ends up being less money with them adding their shipping and their discount on the shipping than what you pay with the free shipping.
Oh, okay,
And of course,
cool.
it depends on what you're ordering. If you're ordering stuff that's not too bulky, it's a bargain. If you're going to order pre-assembled boxes with nothing in it, you're going to get screwed
Yeah,
because you're paying for the dimensional weight, and it's very expensive to ship an empty box.
yeah, and sometimes one specific item will be much cheaper at one place, but you want like five different things, but one of the other items is way higher, than it is another place. But so how would you describe your beekeeping? Are you more of a laid back kind of relaxing, like you enjoy doing it, or do you really really stress about it, and Are you
I don't
very?
stress. I don't stress about much in life these days. I'm relatively laissez-faire beekeeper. Um, I follow the science. I don't believe you have to micromanage your bees. They're pretty good at doing it themselves. Um, as you know, if you've seen our products, I'm very big into mimicking a natural hive, which is what the Bee Smart system is about. Um, so pretty much, I only go into my hives every 2 or 3 weeks. I'm very simple. I do you might control, um, and I let the bees do their thing. I
Okay.
don't think you need to be aggressive. You can do simple inspections. And even now, there was just, I don't know if you listened to the Jim 2 podcast, the Honeybee Obscura. He did a whole thing about spring, early spring. You don't need to go in and inspect your hive deeply. Leave the bees alone because you're going to stress them. What I do this time of year is it's still cold in New York, although we had a 65-degree weekend 2 weeks ago. I just pull out the inspection board and I do an inspection board inspection. And you can see a lot just by reading your inspection board. Not too many people talk about it, but you can learn a lot. You
Yeah.
can pull it out. You'll see if you have dead small hive beetles. You can see if there's any mite drop. You can see the difference between honey that's been uncapped, and you can see the cappings from brood that's hatched out. And you can look how much it is, where it is in the hive, and you can get a pretty good idea of what's going on.
Yeah, we had that warm up too. It really threw a lot of people off. Like everybody was starting getting ready to split and do graft and everything. But then now all of a sudden it's 25 degrees outside now, and
Right.
it
It's
was last
March.
night. Yeah,
It's
every
March. Get
year
over it.
it's the same thing. Every single year, everybody jumps the gun. But for me, I did have to go into a couple that the activity just looked too small, and I was glad that I did go in because even though they went in the winter in 2 boxes, they were down to like 2 frames, bees with a little bit of honey around them. So I feel like if I would have left them alone, they would have just got frozen in these last few days after being so warm. And they had
You know
brood in
something?
them.
I noticed the same thing last weekend when I went in, but when looking at the bottom board, I can see most of them had a lot of detritus on the bottom. There was one that had a very little bit. And so I opened it up. I took 2 frames of brood out of a strong one, put it in there, closed it back up, and I'm going to see what's going to happen this weekend or next weekend.
Yeah, after I was all done, I did see some people talking about equalizing, which probably would have been a good idea, for some of mine. But it's weird. I had some that were just really big, and then some that were just really small, and I felt like to dig all the way down into the brood chamber of like the tall ones would have just been too much. So I think this cold snap is gonna knock a couple out, but I'll still be fine.
It may not, different bees start up different, like the carnies start later and they build quicker. So if they're alive, and I think you'll probably do okay. I think most of them may come back. If there's some stores in there, um, I break some of the rules because I keep a feeder on all winter long.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. You keep the oh man, I don't have it right here with me, but you
I
get a
use
nipple
our
feeder.
insulated inner cover and our direct feeder, so the nipple is always over the hole on the inner cover at the top of the heat bubble. It's in a medium box with the cover over it, strapped together, so the bees have access to the syrup if they need it. And generally, what we have found over the last 5 years with testing before we did the direct feeder is when it's really cold, the bees go up the heat column, will take the syrup when it's a tight cluster, and as it warms up and they can move around, they'll go for the honey.
Cool. I mean, I have my little Be Smart setup out there with the lid and the bottom board and everything, and I think I'm just gonna dedicate a couple of them to just being just strictly my little Be Smart couple somewhere because I sometimes I just have too many and all my equipment is all over the place. It's 5 frame, 10 frame, 8 frame. It's just mediums deep. It's just a mess. I might have logs and bees and every possible thing, but I did, like I said in my previous video, or in a recent video, that one was set up okay, but not perfect and not great, and it's doing really well. They were flying today, bringing pollen in, so that's pretty cool. Let me see.
I'm not much different than you. I have 10 frame, 8 frame. I used to do deeps and mediums, and now I'm strictly all mediums just because I don't want to lift heavy boxes.
Yeah, I take a lot of people just want to get rid of or get out of beekeeping and stuff, and they just want to hand their equipment over. I just take it, so I take whatever they have. I haven't bought boxes in a long time, but I might have to soon.
Well, I cut all my deeps down to mediums, and one of the reasons I really like my system, because it follows what they do in Europe, is I take 2 frames out of each brood box every year, the outer frames, and then I replace it with 2 drawn combs for my honey supers in the middle.
Okay.
Once the colonies are building up, and so now I get 4 or 5 years in the honey supers, and then 4 or 5 years in the brood. So I get 8 to 10 years out of my frames before I cull them. So I get it's 4 years in the brood box, which is fine for culling the frames. So I can rotate them out, but I'm always putting drawn comb in my brood box.
Cool. Yeah. So for me, I think we talked about that on the phone. I think, yeah, I use a lot of foundationless frames. So that's a good idea, though. You can rotate the old stuff out. But if you have, nice, perfectly drawn comb on foundation, what kind of foundation do you use? Like Right Cell or the black?
Right now, I'm pretty much using the Pierco. And I do have a number of wood frames with the plastic foundation, and I use the plastic frames because when you extract, and I'm using a 20-frame extractor, you need a pretty strong frame. You need pretty strong foundation. I think foundationless, that's going to blow out.
Yeah, and those Piercos, those are just all one piece, or is that wood?
I use the one piece. I use the triple wax because I found without the heavy wax, they just weren't drawing out as nicely. And I don't know about you, I'm not going to sit there painting hundreds of frames with wax to put more wax on. I'll just spend the extra 30 cents.
Is that all it is, 30 cents? Because
30 cents, 50 cents. If they're going to last for 10 years, it becomes a non-issue.
Yeah. I use foundation. I use it mostly in the honey super area just to make it easier and not have anything blow out. But I do like the foundationless just to watch the bees do whatever they want to do. It's interesting to me.
I'll throw an empty frame or 2 in periodically to get some comb honey.
And drone brood probably.
Yeah, but I don't sell my honey. I give it away, and I get a lot of honey, and I give a lot of honey away. Yeah, I know I'm not your normal beekeeper.
Yeah, that makes 2 of us. I'm definitely not the normal one. Hey, Pete Grigley's asking where you're located. You're in New York somewhere.
I'm on Long Island, Metro New York.
Oh, okay. Do you like to go on any swarm calls or do any removals?
I don't do swarm calls.
You just don't like doing it.
I'm working during the day, and I'm playing on the weekends.
Yeah, I figure. Yeah, you're a busy person. So, what do you do if you have, say, a bad winter and you lose some bees? Do you ever get overloaded from too many surviving bees or too many alive bees?
I'm facing that problem this year because generally my losses are less than 10%. So this year I went into winter with 14. I have 13 survivors, and the one I lost was lost even before winter began, and I knew it was a loss, and it had nothing to do with me. The person I got my queens from gave me queens for free, telling me they got lost in transit for a week, and they can't give them to anybody and sell them because they don't know what they are, but they'll give them to me for free if I want them. And of course, one of those hives didn't make it. So I just ordered 6 new queens because I don't know what my losses are going to be. So now I'm going to make splits.
All right. Right now I'm just adding the adding something to the screen here. It's probably gonna blow us up here. Let me take that out for a second. Okay. So you're gonna be buried in bees pretty much. You're gonna have to figure out someone to get them to.
Well, also, my mentee just bought 2 of my nukes, and a good friend of mine who's the beekeeper to the wealthy will buy any spare nukes I have for her customers.
Cool.
So I'll be at 14, and I have to by town rules I can't go over 14 because I need a special permit to keep bees where I live.
Okay, yeah, that's different. I don't know if I've ever been to Long Island. It seems to me like there'd be a lot of rules there.
Only certain towns. Well, I
Oh,
live
so,
in Nassau County. It's difficult. Suffolk County, which is the eastern part, anybody can keep bees, no rules.
cool.
My
All right.
town, my town requires a permit, and no one gets it unless a neighbor complains. And one of my neighbors turned me in.
Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. So if they complain, then you have to go get a permit.
Yeah, and in
That's
my case, it was $16,000 in legal bills.
oh my goodness.
You can't get a permit on your own. You
Wow.
need survey. You have to get a survey. You have to have your property surveyed before and after moving the hives. You need a permit expediter, and you need a lawyer to represent you at the zoning board of appeals meeting.
Wow. But you ultimately won, right?
Yep, I got my permit, but
But
they
you
limited me
can't
to 14.
you can't sue them for damages to get your money
Nope.
back
And the
or
worst thing
legal
was
fees.
the woman who turned me in sold her house in the midst of all this.
Oh no. So they ain't even there anymore.
They weren't even there anymore. But that's the cost of doing business, I guess. So, where you live, or most areas, I think the good beekeeping rule is 10 feet from the property line. That's the general rule where you keep your bees.
Yeah, and I hear that about some cities and some towns. Here where I live, I'm pretty wide out in the open. So,
So
but yeah,
my
10
my
feet
town is a 50-foot setback from the property line.
in every direction.
Yes,
Wow. So you need a pretty big backyard,
right.
and then
I
you
have
have
I have,
16.
I have 2 acres, so I have plenty of room to put them. But
Um,
it makes it difficult in the town to keep bees.
all right. Well, hey, how about if we do one drawing a while?
Okay.
We'll get that started. So the way this will work, we got 12 people here right now. Anyone who you got to type into the little chat there on the side, type in "Be Smart," and we will do a drawing after everybody's in there. Um, I forgot to ask. I'm not sure if anybody's from like other countries that are in here. Should we limit it to just the United States here, or
Yeah, for shipping parts, yes.
yeah, okay, yeah. So definitely, limited to lower 48. And then I'll after we're all done, I'll go back through and remind myself who won, and I'll get in contact with them and just let you know. And then whoever wins anything, I mean, feel free to make a little video and let us know how they work for you. I mean, I'm liking it so far. Let me see how many we have. So far, there's 7. We'll just wait a little minute or two.
Okay.
Good to see we got a Kentucky guy here. Hickory Hives Jason. Iowa Lands Beekeeping. So he's a Lands beekeeper. You're going to have to get a little. Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you have any plans of making boxes too?
No, absolutely not. Other
So that
than we have a new product that's in final testing and patent's been applied for. It will be the only way to build a box and for manufacturers to ship pre-painted, knockdown, or lay flat boxes.
wait, that was a mouthful. What did that mean?
What does that mean? If you want a pre-painted box now
Yeah,
from any supplier, the only way to get it is assembled.
right. I mean, yeah. Until now.
Well, how do you paint a box if it's not assembled? Very difficult.
Yeah,
You're
you
going to
don't want to get
paint
the
into
pain
the
in
bigger
the
joints, and painting the end grains a pain in the neck.
right.
Our new system will allow you to paint the front face only and then build the box with a corner,
Okay.
patented corner design. So the manufacturers can ship you the box knockdown. Think IKEA.
Okay. So that works. All right. Let's see what we got here. How many people we got? Well, we got 8. I mean, if anybody's watching, they don't want to enter. That's fine. They might be from another country, but let's spin the wheel here and see what happens. This is my first time doing this for real online.
Okay.
And let's see, who is it? Oh, the winner's Hickory Hives. That's actually one of my buddies, not too far from here.
Sure you didn't plan it that way?
No, you can't. This is a random picker. Congratulations, Hickory Hives. That's going to be easy to remember. Um, so over here, I mean, over here we talk a lot about treatment-free beekeeping. What do you think about that? Just try to keep it like, keep it light a little bit. What do you
I'm
think?
not going to get.
I get into a lot of arguments, but I don't really.
I try to avoid arguments. I tell people what I do. What I do seems to work for me. I'm not a believer in hard chemicals. I'm 100% against vaporization.
Well,
So
that's
I use.
interesting. Tell me why about that, because I don't know why someone would be. I don't do any of it, but
Have you ever read an MSDS for oxalic acid vapors?
not for OA. No, I didn't. But I mean,
Okay, the stuff is toxic as can be. So I stay away from it. Although beekeeping is my main hobby, I'm also a stone carver, and we use oxalic acid to polishing stone. And pretty much it's almost been banned by almost every studio you work at.
hmm.
And that's used in a paste. Once it
Oh,
gets in your body, it never comes out.
So it's kind of like
And it does
antifreeze.
damage. It's like what?
Kind of like antifreeze, huh? Once it gets in there.
Yep, it's not coming out. It's quite dangerous. I think there are other safer ways to go. And if people actually followed proper protocol, I wouldn't have such a big problem. But everybody I speak to, oh, I don't wear the mask. I stay upwind. Oh, I'm not paying $40 for an organic acid cartridge. I'm just going to use the regular cartridge on the respirator. Oh, I only change the cartridge every couple of years. Oh, I put the cartridge in a plastic bag when I'm not using it so I can get longer life out of it. Guess
Well,
what? It's your life. I'm not willing to risk mine for the bees. I'm sorry.
yeah. I mean, I did do a couple of videos. Respond just kind of reacting to another video where they were they were using the vaporizer and it was just blowing everywhere and they didn't have anything on, and it was like it was a pretty bad situation.
When someone tells you the stuff doesn't smell good, it's in their lungs. Once
Yeah,
it's in your lungs, it's never coming out. And it's an acid. Think about that.
but they might say, well, it's also in spinach and it's in lettuce or
Yes,
whatever.
it's a very low dose in spinach. It's not a vapor in your lungs. The other thing is, I think you have to treat a lot. I think there's other treatments that work just as well. I use Formic Pro and I use Apigard for the most part. Those two treatments.
Okay,
And I can't wait for the new OA cards to come out.
So my friend Nancy here didn't even know you had to change the cartridge. I didn't know. I've never used it, but that's a good thing. At least now
You
she
should
knows.
probably change the cartridge once a year.
Once each year. Okay.
It's cheap insurance for $30. Better be safe than sorry.
All right. And then Iowa Lands Beekeeping George says he does the dribble.
And he does the spray, the sugar spray. That's fine. Because
Okay.
you're not breathing it in. I just think it's not as effective as other things. And as I said, I'm waiting for that new treatment to come out. The one that's it's similar to what Randy Oliver boasts about. It's instead of using the sponges, it's going to use a cardboard strip with the OA glycerin in it. It's already been approved. They're just waiting to get the first inventory in the U.S.
All right.
So that's pretty exciting. When the sponges were legal in New York, I used it for the 1 year and I had good results.
And do you test first to see where you're at before you do anything, or is it just
Nope.
you just do it?
I've had this argument with many people. My favorite one is this guy David Peck, who's the biologist at Better Bee, and he basically agrees with me. If you have 14 hives, you're going to have mites. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. So as long as I know I'm going to have mites, I'll treat in the middle in July or August, and then again in September, and then I'll do probably October with the Apigard. The one thing I do is I do monitor, but most people don't do my system. I was in Cuba on a beekeeping trip. In Cuba, everything is done on the cheap, on practical. So what they do for mite control, instead of using these green frames, excuse me, which are a bit of a pain in the neck, and you got to freeze them and you got to take them in and out, and it's more management. They put 1 or 2 short frames in every box. So if you're keeping mediums, you put 1 or 2 shallows in position 2 or 7 or 9, depending which you're doing, 8 or 10. And then every 3 or 4 weeks, you pull that frame, you cut off the drone comb, and you open it up and you look at the drones. If the drones have mites, time to treat. If there's no mites, you're probably in good shape.
But in Cuba, do they have access to the same treatments we do here?
They have no treatments, and they don't have a mite problem. They have a mite problem, but it's under control.
Yeah, but they don't have any treatment. So it's kind of like if they're just removing drone comb and they're checking, they see there's mites, they can't really do anything because they don't have treatment.
But the mites are very little. They don't treat, and the mites don't kill the colonies. They've managed to somehow control it, and they get very high yield. And remember, it's a warm climate, so their bees are working year round.
Yeah, they have no downtime there.
But unlike the U.S., all the queens are government controlled. The government manages everything
down there. Yeah,
down there. But by doing the drone culling, I can actually check the drones to see if there's mites on it. And mites tend to have more mites on drones than on worker bees. So it's a good way to do a quick and dirty test. And you can go in and out. I just go with a 1-gallon bucket, cut it off, open them up, take a look. If I don't see mites on any of them, I leave them. If I start to see some mites, I put the treatments in. Yeah. And with the Formic Pro, you can put it in pretty much any time except the hottest time of the summer.
Yeah. So in the United States, we're never going to be like Cuba. We're never going to.
No.
Or like South or Africa. We're never going to be like Puerto Rico or any country where they just never treated and now they don't. So as I could see, so the difference is when you remove some drone comb or anybody here, that's your cue to do something. There it's kind of like, oh, look, there they are.
Right, but here I only do something if I see the mites. If I don't see mites, I'm thinking my hives are pretty clean.
Okay, but not that they may have some adaptation or maybe some resistance or anything like that.
No, I every year I buy queens from a different queen breeder, and I just use that to mix the genetics a little bit more in my colonies. I think the biggest thing I have going is my brood buildup is very strong. By using the condensing hive system, my hives do better. They're stronger hives are healthier hives to the most part. I don't have really much in the way of weak hives, as people would say.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And that's a good segue because I didn't get to even tell Jason, the guy who just won the drawing. What me and you talked about was for the winners to get a combo, which is like the lid, and you got to tell us a little bit more about the inner cover.
So it's going to be the quad is 4 products. It's an insulated cover, an insulated inner cover, the IPM bottom board, and a robbing screen or robbing moving screen.
Okay.
So you were asking about products. So the first product was the hive stand, and then after that came out a year or so ago, after that, a friend said, you really should make a better cover. The covers suck. And so I did a little research on covers, and yes, standard covers have a lot of issues. The biggest one being they're metal, they're wood, they absorb a lot of heat. The heat radiates into the hive, and you basically cook your bees unless the bees are going to bring a lot of water in to keep the hive cool. And during the winter, they get very cold. Water condenses on the roof, drips on the hive unless you do some kind of insulation. So my main business is plastics. So I came up with a way to make a double wall cover. So you have an air gap in between. The plastic is a terrible transmitter of heat and cold. It's a good insulator on its own. The dead airspace acts like your coffee cup, the hollow cups you get, the metal ones, the double wall, that don't have a vacuum. They're just an air gap. So we came up with the cover, and it was double wall. It's super strong. It fits 8 frame and 10 frame, and it's affordable, and it will last. It never needs painting, and it stays cool to the touch. So it does not get hot even in the hottest sun. So
Yeah,
now,
there's no lies detected. I mean, that's what I said during my, my initial, just kind of review of it. Is that I like the fact it's never going to rot, and they are sturdy. I mean, I could bang someone over the head with them and knock them out. They're very sturdy, and yeah, they're white. They're not going to get hot. So yeah, I like them. I mean, um, and then the inner cover was it looked really like it had a lot of work put into it there. That thing has a lot of insulation and
we got all of our products. We put a lot of thought into the design, the engineering, and try to put as many features in as possible, features that you can't get when you do wood. So like the cover has a lot of nifty features. It has an entrance blocker front and back. So if you use a traditional inner cover with the notch cut, you can slide the cover forward to leave that exposed. You can slide the cover back to cover that blocker, that entrance, if you wanted to. So you can have an upper entrance or not. The sides are reinforced, so it's super strong. You can turn it upside down, put 2 or 3 boxes on it, and it won't crush. So when I'm inspecting my hives, I take it off, put it on the ground, put the box on catty corner, and then it's a safe place to leave the box that I took off.
okay.
It has a textured finish, so it doesn't show too much dirt. It's easy to clean. And I have some of my original covers that are over 10 years old.
Yeah, the first ones I ever got, the first Be Smart lids I got was from a buddy that he moved down south and couldn't take all of his equipment. He said, "Hey, go take whatever you want." And I got 2 of those lids. I never heard of them before, but that had to be 2017 or 2016. And right now you can't tell them from the ones I bought like last year. They're in really good shape, so I like them.
Yeah, they hold up well. And then the product after that was the IPM bottom board, which I guess you guys call the screen bottom boards, IPM.
That's what people call me. Or they consider screen bottom as integrated pest management. I normally do not use screen bottoms. I just tell everybody knows that I don't use them. I mean, I do have a few that I'll use when I don't have anything else and I have nothing. But I am using the one that you sent me. But yeah, it's the only one I've ever used.
Well, think about it this way, because I just had lunch with a master beekeeper does colony management for wealthy people, where they own the colony. She does the management for a monthly fee, and she's got over 100 colonies in management. And she finally agreed with me that an IPM bottom board is really not much different than a solid if you leave the inspection board in all the time.
Yeah, I think that was my problem. Not with yours, because the one that you make is much better sealed than the ones that I have like from Brushy Mountain like a long time ago. It just came with my beginner hive kit, and I think I still have it. But when you slid those in, it seemed like there was still a lot of air and stuff moving around.
Ours seals fairly tightly, so you probably get about 95% sealage. The main thing is, and I think is the strongest point, is on solid, if you have a strong hive, the bees will keep the bottom board pretty clean, correct?
Yeah, I mean,
the only thing you won't know is you won't be able to do a monitor of your hives by looking at what's coming down. With the inspection board, you can pull it out and you can see what's going on or get a reading of how your hive is doing. So I tell people leave the board in all the time. The only time you pull it out is to inspect it, look what's in it, scrape it clean, and put it back in again.
So your main reason for using it is just to see what's going on inside the box, not so much like it's actual pest management, because the screen bottom board doesn't manage pests at all.
Well, some of this, people say some of the mites will drop out, some of the small hive beetles will drop out. I know Jamie Ellis sent me a number of articles a year or two ago about it, and the articles basically said from the research you probably get a little benefit. There's no negatives. There's a slight positive to using them. I just think from a management point of view, it gives me a view of what's going on without disturbing the bees. And, every time you disturb the bees, you throw them back. The more you disturb them, the more they get thrown back into what they're doing. So this is an easy way to get a view of what's going on in the hive.
Yeah, and you got to keep it clean though. I did see how some people they kind of left it in there too long, and then you got wax moths down there and all kinds of stuff running around.
I inspect my hives every 2 or 3 weeks during the season. That's more than enough. You're not going to get too much growing down there, and it's easy. If you were at North American Honeybee Expo, you did get your gift from Bee Smart, did you not?
Did I? Yeah, the blue,
the blue bottom board cleaner, which is also an inspection board cleaner, and a back scratcher.
Let me see. Lex had a question here. Your thoughts about screen bottom boards for places with lots of moisture. I usually use them because I'm in the Pacific Northwest and moisture is the biggest winter problem.
Okay, easy to address. The easiest way to address it is think condensing hive, which I'm a big proponent of. And for people who don't know what a condensing hive is, because it's such a terrible name, a condensing hive is basically a hive where you have an insulated roof, no ventilation, and you have a little on the walls or none. So all the moisture condenses on the walls, drips down and out of the hive. So if you have a IPM bottom board, it will drip through the screen onto the inspection board and out. If you have a traditional solid bottom board like you do, if your hive is tipped forward, it will roll out. If you put a couple little holes in the corners as drains, the water will also drain out. The main thing is moist heat rises, the top of the hive stays warm, so there's no condensation there. Just like in your home, you insulate the roof more than the walls because that's where your heat loss is, and condensation forms on your windows. So in the beehive, the condensation will form on the coldest part, which is the lowest part of the outer walls, which is the furthest from the bees.
And then with the screen, it just what comes out the bottom.
It just falls through the screen onto the inspection board, and it rolls off the inspection board because that's open around the edges.
All right. Yeah, I mean that's one thing you got to remember, and I forget it all the time. Is that just our country's big and it's got a lot of different climates, and then I might be thinking everything's like Pennsylvania, and it's not, because you go up, it gets worse. You go down, it gets a little better, or the weather is a little better. But
remember, a feral hive is a feral hive. It's in a tree. It's got infinite insulation on the top, moderate insulation on the walls, and an opening on the bottom.
Yeah, I mean most of the time. Yeah, I still have my log colony actually died this year for the first time, and since I had it, but yeah, it's. I mean, I guess that's the goal, trying to replicate the inside of a tree.
And that's what the condensing hive does. That's what our system does with the insulated cover, the insulated inner cover, and the IPM bottom board.
Cool. All right, here let's knock out the second part of the second. We'll call it the quad here. We got 14 people here now. You can go ahead and type in quad. That's the name of the whole system. If you wanted to try it out. When you order something like that,
keep in mind, Bruce, that all of our products are 8-frame, 10-frame compatible. They work on either with no modifications.
Yeah, so that was actually a good thing, because the one colony that I wanted to use the quad you sent me on was 8-frame, and it was pretty easy to just use a little adapter there, put it right in there, and fit perfectly. And
what we also do is on both the IPM bottom board and the insulated inner cover, we have corner pins so they don't slide. The boxes won't slide around.
Yep.
On the bottom board, and the insulated inner cover won't slide around on the top, so everything stays together nicely.
Do you have any like nearby right there? Did you want to like hold up and show it at all? I don't know. All my stuff's still down in the bee barn, but
I don't have any in my office here.
Just with you. Yeah, if I was thinking, I would have had something to hold up here. But you can always go back and watch the video.
If you go to our website, there's an expanding hive, and you can click on any of the components to see all the gory details. And then when you click on a product, you can also click where to buy, and it will give you every stocking dealer in the country, so you can order direct within a few clicks from your favorite dealer.
Yep, that's how I did it.
And you can compare prices if you want, because all the links are there.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's how I found out that actually on your website the prices weren't too far apart. They were within a normal range. I think it was just some kind of like some outliers were on like Amazon or something, or I forget where I saw them, but they were pretty high. But that was a
Well,
little bit of
Amazon has to be high because you got to pay for the shipping and you got to pay Amazon their 20%.
yeah, yeah. It's probably
So
why.
unless you're willing to work for nothing, you got to mark it up at a ridiculous amount.
Yeah, you don't
And
want to work for nothing. You don't want to work
I,
for nothing. I had an issue with somebody wanting me to work for nothing not too long ago, and it caused me quite a bit of stress.
right. And what you'll also find is on the website, those are what I call our authorized dealers. Those are people that buy direct stock our products directly from us. There are people that sell it that are not authorized dealers. They're buying from someone, another dealer, and reselling, and therefore it's difficult for them to sell it at the same price.
Okay. All right, let's spin the little wheel of fortune here, see who wins. Hickory Hive's trying to win again. I don't think you can win again. I don't know if the spinny here is going to let you win again.
Well, his
But I
name
forgot.
came up again.
Yeah, for some reason it's showing him again. All right, we got Richard Toms, another good, very long time watcher of the show here, or my channel and all that stuff. But Richard, if you can, put some type of contact information on your account, on your YouTube account, so I know that it's not someone else contacting me. If you just go to your, I'll check it. We'll work something out. I'll figure it out and get the info over to Cliff. Cool. So I forget what state is Richard Toms in. Why am I thinking like? Okay, yeah, you can message me on Facebook. That'll work too. So you were telling us about you had the new thing coming up, but
We have a couple of new things coming out. Starting later this year, our IPM bottom board is getting a major upgrade. We're eliminating the wire mesh on the bottom and we're going to a molded set of slots similar to what Apame and an L do because it's stronger, it's more durable, and will handle the oxalic acid vaporization, which will destroy most of the metal mesh that you'll get in a conventional wooden bottom board.
oh, okay, I didn't even know that. So yeah, acid and metal don't mix too well.
No.
All right. And what was the other one you were just telling me about? You told me
The
something
corner,
earlier.
the box, what we call box
Oh,
building.
okay, yeah. So okay, that's exciting. How about frames? You ever gonna make? Yeah. Do you see
No,
any type of? Well, what kind of things in beekeeping do you see and you think, man, they should really fix that thing? It's kind of annoying, but you don't
you
want to
know,
fix it.
there's a lot of things I can think of doing, but for us to go into it, the cost of tooling, design, the size of the market doesn't lend itself to a lot of different products. I mean, I'd love to make a slatted rack. I like slatted racks.
Okay, you were
It's
telling me about that on the phone. Well, what's the deal with side rack? I don't like
economically,
it.
it's not an economical product because of the tooling and the cost of making the product and the amount of people that want it. Did you look
So
up what a
not a lot
slatted
of people
rack
use it.
is?
What's that?
Did you look up what a slatted rack is?
Well, I've always known what it is. I've seen it a million times. I just couldn't figure out in my brain what, like, it's just more equipment to me. I couldn't figure out why. I mean, but now I can see
In
if you
cold
lined it.
weather, it comes in handy because it keeps the draft down from coming in the bottom. It also raises the brood box so the bees can go lower on the bottom frames to lay eggs.
Okay. All right. So I have something. I don't have that, but on one of my hives that's at another location, I forget what I did, but I had a board nailed to the bottom of the box. Like it was a swarm that I was catching, and the board has a hole in it. And I just sat that on top of a normal bottom board. So the bees have to go all the way in and climb up and go through this hole to get into the hive. And they survived 2 years in a row now with no care at all. I mean, I check them twice a year, but it's not exactly a slatted rack. But I guess for the slatted rack, they better line up with the bottom of those frames, right?
They do. So you get an 8 frame, the slats, and then you have a gap in between. So the openings go right between. So everything drops right down. And the bees can go up and down as they want. But now the bees, have a protected area at the bottom where they're not just getting the draft coming in through the entrance.
Yeah, and I can see how that'll be, someone with 10, 15, 20 colonies, that might be a good thing for them, but you wouldn't see like somebody with 100 colonies doing that.
I don't know. My friend, the beekeeper to the wealthy, every hive has a slatted rack on it.
Every single one. Well, that person, they're charging the wealthy people.
Customers, the wealthy customers are buying everything.
Oh yeah, so you can just get them everything, gabled roof,
No, she uses BeSmart exclusively. So when a customer starts, unless they're going to build their own stand, they use a BeSmart stand and bottom board, inner cover, the whole system.
Cool. Do they have a YouTube channel? We can watch it.
No, I don't think she does posting though.
Like on Instagram or something?
Yeah, she's on Instagram. You can look up Bonac Bees, Bonac Bees.
Oh, I know who that is. I know. I'm following Bonac Bees.
Okay.
Yeah, Bonac.
Yeah, she's one smart lady.
Yeah, I follow them, but I wonder. I haven't seen any posts recently. Actually, I follow so many people that they all blend together.
Yeah, she posts on a regular basis. She's very smart. She's a master beekeeper. She stays on top of the science.
Oh yeah. Now I know she does a lot of removals too.
Yes.
Right. Yes, I've seen her up in like the ceilings of like
She does smart removals. She goes in there with a little camera. She goes in there with the heat camera and the little one on the wire to look in, so she doesn't destroy a house. She goes very particular when she does a removal on the outside of the house.
The borescope. That's like the opposite of how I go in. I got like a hammer and a pry bar. And
but the houses she's doing are $10 million houses.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, that's great. Some people, they hit the jackpot.
Well, if you live on Eastern Long Island on the South Shore, you're in the Hamptons.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of the Hamptons.
What?
I've heard of the Hamptons. What is that?
Yeah, that's where the wealthy live.
Yeah. All right.
But you know something? I know it sounds great, but she works her butt off. It's a tough job.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely know Bonac. What's the name? Is Bonac the person's last name, or does that stand for something?
It stands for the area. They were the Bonacers, were the people that I think fished in that area on the South Shore of Long Island.
All right.
There's a reason behind the name. But she's very good. Now she's on a mission about honey laundering.
Okay. So that's
the people that say they're selling local honey and they're actually selling honey that they bought from in barrels and rebottled and claim it's from the same area and from the local bees.
Yeah, that is a mess. And I was just at the grocery store the other day looking at honey and it'll say local whatever, but it's not even from anywhere around here. It'll even say like Vermont or Washington State. Even like local people, not local, but American people are doing it too.
Well, these are Americans. These are local people on Long Island that are claiming it's from our bees to you. They're local where we are, and they have no hives. One woman claimed that her local honey was organic.
Oh my goodness.
And as you know, there's virtually no organic honey anywhere in America.
Right. Yeah, I've gotten into that with a couple people. Not gotten into it, but yeah. We don't have the, what do you call it?
Can you find an area with a 3-mile radius from your hive where there's no pesticides or chemicals used?
Well, not me, but we don't, even if you did, it wouldn't matter. Like you could go into the mountains of Montana where there's nothing anywhere. Like there's just no people, there's no pesticides because there's nothing. You're going to find that like all day or, plenty of places. I don't know.
You're not going to find someone on the east end of Long Island selling organic honey. I'm sorry. Right.
But I'm just saying, no matter who you are, where you are, in the United States, we just don't have that thing where you can get that. I mean, how do I turn this damn notification thing off? I keep getting messages on my screen.
And it's also, you have to certify the organic honey, which is virtually impossible.
Yeah, okay, so that's what it is. We don't have the certification process here.
Right, but it bugs her. These people are going to the farmers markets and they're selling hyper local honey, saying it's from this town, and they don't have beehives, or there's no way that for how much honey they're selling, they have that many hives.
Yeah. So we don't even need other countries like China to dump it on us when people in the United States are dumping it on us, I guess.
She actually found someone selling local honey, labeled local honey, and she found the import records where they imported like 9 55-gallon barrels of honey from somewhere.
Well, what are you going to do? I don't.
And they're selling it cheap.
Huh.
And where we are, honey is dear. We get a lot of money for honey up here.
So what's like a pound of honey there in a nice little pretty jar?
25.
Okay, so that's like Philly here. I went to the last Philly beekeeping get together they had. $25 for a little mason jar, one.
She's 25 for a 1 pound jar. If and when I sell it, it's generally $20 for a jar, unless, like right now, I have a friend of mine who buys it for someone who resells it, and I give it to him for like $12 a jar. But I'm not in it for the money. Most of my honey I donate.
Yeah.
So like last year I had 1,300 pounds. Almost all of it was given away. The year before, out of 14 hives, I had 2,300 pounds, and 500 went to a food bank.
Wow. Hey, I mean that's great. For me, I don't mind dealing with honey a little bit, but yeah, I've never had that kind of a yield just by the number, even with as many hives I sometimes have. But yeah, dealing with honey is the least favorite part for me. I do like eating it.
I like to eat it. I make mead with it. I use it in the beer that I brew. I use the wax for hand creams and stuff. I get to use most of my bee products. I use the propolis that I get. But what are you gonna do with that much honey?
I don't know. I have right down here in my feet. I got 3 buckets here
and I always tell people there's no money in honey.
Right. I mean, after you go through all the work, what are you going to make? I don't know. Unless you have an extremely efficient process for extracting and bottling and all the work and time you put into it. I don't know. That's for me. There's definitely no money. I'll sell someone out here, take this jar, $15. But I spent a lot of time, a lot of time to get that.
I actually have a whole bunch of friends that come at the end of during the summer to help do the bottling, and like the church, they take a tithing. At least 10% goes to them.
That's good.
They take whatever they want, and it ends up usually being about 10% of whatever we did that day, which is fine. It goes to good people, and we have a fun time doing it. But I couldn't see doing this as work. It's too much.
So Kentucky guy likes processing honey. I think if I had a really nice, efficient, clean system like some of my friends do, they bring their boxes in. There's not bees flying everywhere. I have a really small house, so it's like they got a lot of room to do it. They can kind of do it. For me,
I actually do it in one of my garages, but I cover the floor with plastic. I bring them in. I put the heater on, dehumidifier for a day and a half or 2 days, and then I have. I don't uncap the way most people do. Are you still using a knife?
If I'm using an extractor, yeah, I would use a knife.
Okay, so years ago there was Lega made an uncapping machine that you'd put a frame in, and you'd pull down a handle, and wheels would cut open the cappings. It would put slits in the cappings. And you just come down, it puts the slit in the cappings, and it indexes onto a rail, and you're done. Then you put it in your extractor. It's simple, it's clean. There's a tray below it to catch all the drippings.
So it doesn't actually remove the capping. It doesn't actually.
No, it does not. It just puts a slit in the cappings. So if you look,
sneaks out.
It will drip into the bucket. So you press down, you pull them down, index them forward, then you just put it right in your extractor. So it just blows out the top of the capping, and you don't lose any wax, and the bees don't have to rebuild the honeycomb.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It
So
works. It works great. And based on that, if you look on our site, we make a slicer, which does exactly the same thing. It's a handheld tool that slices through the top of the cappings. When you extract it, you don't have to cut off the cappings. Once you put a slit in the top of the cappings, the honey will come out on its own on the centrifugal force when it's in the extractor.
So the website, your website is just Be Smart Design. Is it just besmartdesigns.com?
BeSmartDesigns.com.
And all one word?
Yep. BEESmartDesigns.com.
besmartdesigns.com. I'm going to make that the next keyword for type for our last drawing for the day.
Okay.
So everybody gets it. besmartdesigns.com. Yeah.
So everybody's still into spring mode. So the one product we didn't discuss is our direct feeder.
Okay.
So, and this goes back to the whole concept of the condensing hive. If you use a hive top feeder where the bees have to go up into the upper box, which is the conventional type of feeder with the floats or where the bees go up and you have an open container with the syrup in it, what happens is the heat in your hive escapes. And now your hive gets cool and the bees won't go up at night into the cold box. The direct feeder sits right over the hole on the inner cover, and the bees can get direct access to the syrup 24/7 without any loss of temperature, humidity, or the gases in the hive that they're maintaining at the optimal level. So what it means in the spring, and this is a big bug of mine, that most people think they need to do top ventilation. You're aware of that whole, I need to ventilate, keep my hive dry.
I mean, I do. All my hives, all except for the one with the Be Smart stuff, they all have top ventilation. Not ventilation, it's just a top entrance. It's just a big hole. My hives have holes all over them.
Is it a top entrance, or are you leaving the hole in the inner cover open all the time?
A lot of mine don't even have inner covers, so there's just let me see, top entrance. Some of them are actual top entrances, and then some of them are flipped over inner covers. In the winter position. Some of them are just still the same way they were all summer, but almost every single setup that I have out there does have an opening of some type.
Okay, so we make, as you know, the insulated inner cover, and the condensing hive theory is you keep the hole in the center closed to keep the heat bubble there. But we do offer an option for an upper entrance. So you can take the insulating board, rotate it horizontally 180 degrees. There's a little opening in the center hole for the center, and there's a little opening on the outside. Now you have a tunnel for the bees to go in and out for an upper entrance.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
You saw that, right?
Mm-hmm, yep.
With that, you will not lose heat or humidity because of the design. So the bees can now they can get the best of both worlds. You can get the upper entrance and you can keep the sealed top in effect because because of the length of that tunnel and the height of the tunnel, you won't lose the heat or the humidity.
Yeah, because around the tunnel it's very insulated. Like you can
right,
feel...
but it's the length of the tunnel it's horizontal. The heat and humidity can't get out. They want to rise, but that's not letting it rise and get out. So
right.
now the bees can go in and out as they need, and you can also get the benefit of that insulation. And the trick now is with the insulation, especially in the spring, when the bees are raising the brood right now, and if you have top ventilation, you're losing the heat and the temperature in the colony is going up and down. And brood needs a very stable temperature. I believe it's 93 to 96 degrees is the optimal temperature for brood.
Yeah.
So if it goes lower than 92, 93, the nurse bees abandon the brood. If it goes above 96 or so, the bees abandon the brood. And now you get to my favorite peeve. Now you blame the queen. Take some responsibility that you're not giving them the nest condition that's optimal for them. So the queen can lay, but if the nurse bees aren't going to take care of the brood, it looks like a bad queen, and you're not going to get a good buildup. If you keep it insulated and let the bees control the gases, the heat, humidity, CO2 in the hive through the front entrance, like they would do in a natural hive, you're going to get more brood being reared.
Yeah, springtime for me is definitely. I mean, if spring would have came a couple weeks ago, it would have been fantastic. But yeah, it's very, very up and down here, and I can see some bees that were right there at the verge of making it and surviving are gonna kick the bucket at this last minute, and
Because it
and
got
it
too
might have
cold.
to.
Because it got too cold in the hive.
Yeah, and it might have to do with my ventilation, but and I've had a couple weird colonies that just had looked like they got hit with a machine gun, and they just lived perfectly fine through the winter. And then it's just bees are freaking weird. They just survive weird
They
stuff.
are weird, but if you give them every benefit of the doubt and you give them good conditions, they're more likely to survive and do well. It's
Yeah, they
also
can
like,
only take so many setbacks. I mean, yeah.
right. And think about in the summertime, you're in Pennsylvania, so it's not bad. But if you're further south, you ever feel how hot the metal covers get?
Yeah, they even get hot here. Yeah, I could fry an egg on them here in summertime.
Okay. And where do you think all that heat's going?
Well, I mean, my brain would think that the wood underneath it is kind of not a great conductor, but also I think
It's
if you don't
basically
have an insulation, it'll go right to the bees. It'll go right into the
right.
hive.
And so when it goes to the bees, what do the bees need to do?
Yeah, they got to start bringing in a ton of water, or they'll just get away from it. They got to fan a
Right.
lot
And if they have
more.
to bring in a ton of water during the nectar flow, what does that mean for your honey crop?
Yeah, it's gonna not be good.
It's
Might
going to
not be
suck
good.
because all the foragers are bringing in water to keep the hive cool, and they're not bringing in the nectar. But if you do the insulation, you have an insulated cover, you have an insulated inner cover, there's very little heat gain. And with
Yeah,
our cover, which you probably discovered, there are little risers in it. Remember back in the day, they used to tell you to put popsicle sticks under your inner cover or some
yeah,
nickels? Well, that's built into the inner cover. So any heat between the cover and the inner cover will escape, passive ventilation.
yeah.
And then
There's
you have
gonna
the
be
insulated part below
there's
it.
little risers all the way around, which I couldn't tell. Is that big enough for a bee to get underneath it, or is
No,
that
no,
just,
much smaller than a bee.
okay? Because I couldn't
So,
tell from just laying it on there.
so a bee is about an eighth of an inch, plus or minus, and that gap is less than a tenth of an inch.
Okay,
So
all right.
although it doesn't look like much, if you do the math for the height times the length all the way around, it's about a 3 square inch opening. And
Okay,
I tell
just spread
people if
out
you're
all the way around.
right, and if you're in a really hot location or you think you need more ventilation during the summer, you can remove that plug that's in the insulated inner cover. So you get about a 2 inch diameter hole. So any excess moisture, heat will escape the hive, go up to below the inner cover, and then vent out through the passive ventilation. So you can get a little extra ventilation through your hive in really hot, humid weather if you think you need it. Then when it cools down, you put the plug back in, the bees maintain the proper environment in the nest.
All right. Well, I mean, we've been on for an hour. We'll do the last one here real quick, and then we'll just kind of see if there's anything else we wanted to take. Any final questions or anything for the last drawing of the quad. We'll do besmartdesigns.com. So that's a lot you got to type in there, and you got to make sure it's right, or it won't.
That's right.
Huh? Yeah, it won't add you. Let me see. Yeah, so it's showing up. Oh man, yeah. I thought this was a pretty good talk.
Right. One thing I'd
And
like to, after you do this next drawing, the one thing I'd like to discuss is, which we didn't discuss, we have our hive system, which is the cover, inner cover, bottom board, robbing screen, and the stand. And then we also make a line of what we call cool tools. Did you get a check? Did you get a look at those?
cool tools. That sounds familiar, but I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about specifically. What's the
Okay,
cool tool?
do the drawings, and I'll give you a quick rundown on those
Okay.
handy beekeeping tools that make management easier.
All right, everybody, go ahead. Type in Be Smart Designs into the chat, and we'll do the final drawing here. Hickory Hive still typing quad in there. We're done with quad. That was a different one. I mean, you can tell me a while people are
Okay, so
typing it in.
the first product that I like to talk about, and now it's becoming a little bit more in some of the people talking about that fancy word biosecurity, which
Yeah.
basically means, are you keeping your hive tools clean and not spreading disease from one apiary to the next? So one of our top sellers is we make a magnetic hive tool holder that's on a belt that goes around your waist. You can hold your hive tool, and it's the
Okay.
only one of its kind that you can actually sterilize. So you can take your hive tool off, you can wipe it down with alcohol, or you can flash flame it with a torch, clean your hive tool, put it back on, go to the next apiary. You won't spread disease from one apiary to the other. With
Okay.
that, the hive tool is right at your hip all the time. You'll never lose your hive tool.
Oh, I thought I had one of those. Oh man, I had it here for a little while. I must have took that down the. So I think we're having a problem here with people typing in .com into the.
Just do Be
I think
Smart Designs.
yeah. Let me fix this because I think YouTube won't let them say that. So I'm gonna change that back here. Let me start collecting comments. All right, so we'll try that again. So now Lex, go ahead, type that. Everybody else, and we'll let it go for about him. I think whoever typed .com, it probably booted your comment. There we go. Now it's working. Well,
Right.
Richard, he already won.
So part of the cool tools, I guess you can call the robbing moving screen, which is probably the number one selling robbing screen in the country now. It requires no assembly, or the installation is 4 push pins. It
Yeah,
has
the
2
little solar
doors.
pins.
It's designed that the hive odors stay low near the entrance and away from the doors, so you can use one door or the other door depending if they find the entrance or not. And you can also close the doors. It becomes a moving screen, and it fits 8 frame or 10 frame. We have the bottom board cleaner, which you saw right at the show.
Yep.
Okay. What else do we make? And then we make our uncapping system. So if you just have a few hives, you can use our slicer, which cuts through the top of the cappings, and we make a frame holder that holds the frame over a 5-gallon bucket. So you put this on top of your 5-gallon bucket, stand your frame up in it, and then you can slice down on the frame to open them up. Anything drops into the bucket, and then you can put it in your extractor. So you don't need an uncapping knife. You don't need an uncapping tank. It's, I think, about $17 for the two together, and use any 5-gallon bucket.
So
Simple.
I forgot what you called the thing that hooks onto the bucket where you set the frame. What do you call that again?
That's the frame holder, the uncapper.
Okay, so the frame holder. When I first saw it, I mean, maybe the way you intended it to be used makes sense too. But for me, a lot of times when I'm doing scrape and strain or whatever, I always have like nowhere to sit the frame after I'm done scraping it sometimes. So that's what I thought it was used for, and that's what I was going to use it for when I'm doing scraping. Just scraping it right off the foundation. Then I don't have anywhere to put that drippy frame. I can just sit it up there.
Oh, then because it's all angled to go into the bucket. The other thing that slicer is very good for, even if you're using an uncapping knife and you get some low cappings, instead of using one of those forks, which are a pain to use, you can just take our slicer and just slice down on the low capping to open it up before you extract.
Oh, cool. Rodney had a question here. He said, "Can you make them for a 5-frame nuke?" But I'm not sure what he meant by that. He might mean like the lid or inner covers.
Okay,
do you have any plans for that?
Yes, I have an answer for that because I use the insulated I use our system on my nukes. And all I do is I take 2 wood sticks, like 1x1s, and double stick tape them on the bottom of the insulated inner cover, spaced the width of the nuke box. So it keeps the inner cover centered left, right.
Okay.
Overhangs the edges quite a bit, but you get the insulation. You can still use a direct feeder, and you can still use our cover, and then I just strap it down.
So it turns out he was asking about the nukes. The robbing screens for 5-frame nukes, which seems like a really good idea because a lot of people have trouble with, bringing home swarms.
You can't use it the way it is stock, but if you want, and what I've done and some people have done, is just cut out the middle section and tape it together, and now make it narrower for whatever width you want.
Okay.
Just 2 cuts, and you can then 2 cuts, take the center out, and now you can make it whatever width you want. You with me on that?
Yeah. Oh, I see. So you take out the center part and
Right.
just
You just cut down vertically and just
so
make it narrower.
Beehive with a View was saying that they had an issue with the push pin came loose from the push part, but those are just kind of standard push pins to hold the screen on. I've had that happen with with a lot of pins. Like I use pins a lot for holding on mouse guards and holding on tags, and then sometimes when I go to pull them out, the push part comes off and the point is still stuck in the wood.
Yeah,
but
the ones we have are metal push pins, so the sun won't get to them. Now, the other 2 products we have, which are really geared for the hobbyist market, is glad you like the magnetic hive tool holder. Most people like it once they get used to it. Takes about a day or 2 to get used to putting your hand there and how to put the hive tool on. The nice thing with our unit is the sharp edge, the bent edge, is facing in away from your wrist. So it's always in a safe position. The other 2 tools that are really handy, which you probably saw, is we make that product called the Pry Point.
Yeah, okay. We forgot to talk about that.
Yeah, that's a game changer. I had wrist surgery 2 years ago. The Pry Point are these little adapters that screw onto the top and the bottom of the box, and it allows you to put the hive tool between them and just pry up without trying to jam the hive tool into the wood, banging on the wood, disturbing the bees. So now you can put the tool in, separate the boxes, puff a smoke, give them a minute to calm down, and then reopen it and open the hive. And you've done it all without disturbing the bees, banging on the box, and destroying the wood in the corners.
Yeah, I'll definitely be putting those on my little setup where I have, just my little experimental Be Smart setup there, the Pry Points, and I'll be using the feeder. So those will be cool. At first I thought, you would kind of need a whole bunch of them to put on if you had a whole bunch of hives, but
I have them on every box in my
every single box. Do you put them on just one corner or on all?
Just one corner. I always open back right.
Okay.
So I put it, and one nice thing with it, if you put it in one corner, every time you take a box off, you're guaranteed to reorient the box the correct way, which means you won't screw your bees up by putting the box rotated 180 degrees, the front to the back to the front. So now you can do that. And then the really cool tool, which you saw, is we make the hive handle. So for people who have a problem lifting boxes with gloves on that weigh 60 pounds, we have that modular handle that just clips onto the box. And now you have a giant grip to grip onto to lift the boxes. So no matter how big your hand, how small your hand, it's easy to get a grip like you're gripping a luggage box, a suitcase.
Yeah, you got a nice something to grab onto.
Right. And that's actually going under a new revision. We're going to make it even easier to use later this year.
We're going to spin the wheel here, see who we got for the last winner. So far we had Jason, then Richard Toms, and Iowa Lands Beekeeping. There we go. There's another very avid watcher of my great channel here.
Okay.
And cool, but so that'll be something different for Iowa Land. I don't know if Iowa Lands Beekeeping has Langstroth stuff. I have to go over and look. I think I keep forgetting.
If the boxes are the size of Langstroth, the system will work.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I keep getting like Lands mixed up with like Top Bar hives. I don't know why.
Yeah. The bottom line is the Be Smart system was designed for traditional Langstroth hives. It's designed based on the science. Everything's modular, so you can use any component or any group of components together with or without traditional woodenware. Basically, we do everything but boxes and frames. So it works on shallow, mediums, deeps, nukes, 8s, and 10s. And even for people who have licensed poly hives or Apame hives, The hive stand is adjustable in width, and we make versions for every one of them for the hive stand. So no matter what hive you have, we can make the hive stand width accommodate your hive.
All right. All right. Well, thanks, Cliff. You know,
Oh,
we're
one
gonna
last
be.
thing which your listeners may like, which is unique in BeSmart. All of our products are 100% made in USA, most with recycled materials, and all of our plastic is American sourced. So unlike people that are saying assembled in USA, we're not assembled. We're made in USA 100%. We're not bringing it in from China, putting a label on it, putting a couple of screws in it. We're doing everything right here in the US. Most of it in the metro New York area within a 3 or 4 state area.
And you know what? I think I know. I think I know why you're saying that. But no, it's true. There's a lot of big companies that will say, you know, it's from America or something, and it just isn't. Like it just totally isn't. And
Well,
that's
there's one in particular, I can't name it, but they put a giant USA label on their boxes, and if you read the fine print around it, it says designed and assembled in USA, not made in USA, but it looks like that. We make it here, and we make it heavy duty. If
yeah.
you
I mean, I would have
compare
led with
our
that. That's a really good selling point for me personally because I really like the idea of recycled stuff and also like you know American made is great. Does your do you have a factory here where you have like a whole bunch of employees or like you just
no,
mostly
we have a factory in New York, and then we have contract molders that do a lot of our work. But these are I like to refer to them as partners. We've been with the same people for 20 or 30 years. So
okay.
they they help with some of the design. I have an outside engineer and product designer. I create most of it and then we keep fine tuning it. So what you'll see on most of the products are what it was when it came out 10, 15 years ago or even 2 years ago. We continue to improve the products. So the bottom board is getting an upgrade. The covers had a couple of upgrades. The stand is now on the second version. So I'm not afraid to take money, reinvest in the product to make it better once we know we can make improvements. So it's continuous improvement on the products. We just don't make one, say it's good enough, and stop. That's not my personality. I am always trying to do better, keep the prices down. As a matter of fact, the upgrade to the bottom board, not only will it be stronger and better, it will be less expensive.
Oh, cool. I mean, I look forward to using the rest of the stuff that you sent to me. I just didn't get since it was winter time when I got it. I didn't have a chance to use a lot of it, but I want to use the feeder, the pry points, everything, the belt. I'll be out there. I'll be using it. You know, I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you coming on here for my viewers to give them some stuff to try out, and hopefully we'll hear from them. And
And
then
I'm glad you
you too.
stopped by at the show to say hello. And I would tell most of your listeners, come to North American Honeybee Expo next year. You'll see more of our new products, but it's a real learning experience. I like the idea that Cayman vets the talkers, so you're not getting nonsense people that just do YouTube videos with no knowledge, are just spouting off at the mouth, sound good, but are not giving good information. I didn't say I didn't, you know your stuff, and you do it your way, I do it my way, but we can have a conversation. It's not there's only one way or the highway when
Yeah,
it
no.
comes to this stuff.
So cool. I mean, we'll get together again sometime. And if you got something new you want to come on and talk about it, you can always come into any of my lives. Just
Okay,
like all these people are here, you can always come in and just I can pull you up and just give us a little rundown of something, and then hop back out. You know, you don't have to always come on and do a
that's
whole
sure.
show. You know, be cool.
Also, if anybody has questions, they go to our website. We have a place where you can just ask a question, get information on the products. If you have anything, just put a note. We get back to you usually within a day or so.
All right. So for that, we're going to sign off. Just hang with me, Cliff. I'm just going to end the
Okay.
live here. Everyone, thanks again for watching and hanging out. Hope you enjoyed it. And you want to hit the thumbs up on your way out. Appreciate that. Take care, everybody. See you next time.